All right, there's been two spring training games already in the bag, and they weren't pretty, but relax, everyone. It's not even February yet.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And we are now the number one sports podcasting network. I am your host for at least for the next few weeks. My name is Paul Francis Sullivan, but look right down there. Call me Sully. I'm normally the host of the Locked On MLB show, and I'm still hosting it this week, but I am filling in for a little bit while we're getting a brand new permanent host. Salute you. Great job, Booney, the last season. Check him out. He's got a brand new show. Find him on the YouTubes because Booney is out there still talking A's. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Now, use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. On today's show, we're going to be taking a look at the two spring training games that are in the can, which, as I alluded to in the opening, which forgive me for having a tiny bit of a cough there, but, well, they weren't pretty, but it's early. And to paraphrase Allen Iverson, we're talking about practice. And there were a couple of things that were, I don't know, I thought pretty encouraging, especially at this point in the season. And especially regarding Luis Severino, who's tuning up for the WBC, but hopefully he's going to be tuning up for a fine year pitching for your West Sacramento A's. Also, an old friend is back in the payroll, Bob Melvin, Palo Alto's own, Menlo Atherton High School's own. I went to the Menlo School. We were a rival of Menlo Atherton, but who could dislike Bob Melvin? And we take a little look at his legacy. He's probably managed his last game as a man's in his mid-60s. Let the man retire. But a bounce here and a bounce there, and I'm dead serious when I say this. We could be talking about Bob Melvin having a Hall of Fame resume. Does he have one now? We'll talk about that a little bit later. But okay, let's talk about the games that were played. Two games have already been played in this year's spring training, and let's talk about it, shall we? The game that was played this afternoon in Arizona was between the A's and the former Indians, now the Guardians. And okay, the final score was 6-0, but as I can't stress this enough, you can't look at the final score. You're going to have guys playing like number 86 is going to be batting against number 73. After the fourth inning, it's really just practice time. Okay, and so what you have to do is take a look at the game and realize, all right, without looking at the box score, what did we see? And one thing, 6-0 is the final. Didn't see a whole heck of a lot in terms of offense, obviously. But Luis Severino, I think, gave A's fans, well, something positive to look at. He pitched 2 innings. He struck out 3. He let up 1 hit, 1 walk. He didn't let up a batter. He didn't let up a runner. And he is, of course, he's turning it up a little bit because he's going to be representing Team Dominican Republic at the World Baseball Classic. But that's a solid start for Severino because, of course, for him, he could potentially opt out of his contract after this year. So it would behoove him to have a solid year. And it would behoove the A's to put a good offense around him and make sure that the defense plays well behind him. But do you know what? He looked like he was in midseason form. He looked really good. He looked very good in the 2 innings that he pitched. And remember, it's still February at this point. And he threw 34 pitches, 23 of them for strikes. And according to Martin Gallegos on Twitter, or whatever they're calling it these days, his fastball maxed out at 97.8 miles per hour. Now, I'm not one of these people who drools and is fascinated by the radar gun as much as some people. I'm old enough to remember when you could make a great living being an off-speed pitcher. I'm old enough to remember when you could have a situation where pitchers could outsmart the offense, not just by blazing it past them. And Severino, in his best years with the Yankees, yes, he threw a great fastball, but he was also a pretty smart pitcher along the way. What else do we learn from, uh, you know, uh, Joe Cuno? Joe Cuno did not look good, and Denzel Clark did not hit well in the middle of that. But you know what? It just was the offense wasn't there. They're going to start JT Ginn in tomorrow in Monday's game against San Francisco, and we'll see what's happening there. And do you know what? It's a spring training game. It's time to get the rust off. Nick Kurtz didn't have a good game. He was 0 for 3. But do you know what? It's, as I said, it's early. Michael Kelly had a good game today for the A's. He faced 3 batters. He struck out all 3. And Jeff McNeil got his first hit with the A's in spring training. Both Jacob Wilson and Nick Kurtz are off to, haven't exactly lit up the scoreboard so far. But do you know what? Just make sure everyone's healthy. Everyone looks pretty good. McNeil got an error. Kurtz made an error. But you know what? Just make sure everyone's healthy and everyone is getting the rust off of them. That was the second game that was played. The first game that was played was played over the weekend against the White Sox. And we come back, we'll talk a little bit about that. And that wasn't pretty either. But there was one person who did shine in that game. And I'll just tell you something. If you play Immaculate Grid, you are going to want to keep this guy in the back pocket. All right, let's talk about our friends over at FanDuel. There it is, at FanDuel. We're doing this one live, folks. We're doing it live. You ever want to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you a chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. And here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole shebang. And if you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures at this time of the year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship, Oklahoma City, or grab the conference title, Detroit Pistons. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. Hey, thanks so much for making Locked On A's your first listen. And you know what? Baseball is back, and you can lock in by joining the Everydayer Club, which gives you ad-free episodes and access to our group chat on Discord. For the next week or so, you can use code SPRING for a free month. Go to lockedona's.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes and check us out, lockedona's.supercast.com. We are doing this live, and I'm seeing there's some people in the live chat. I wonder how many of them don't like me. Where's Booney? Well, Booney, I will tell you where Booney is at the end of the show. There you go. What's up, Scully? It's Sully. I'm not in the X-Files, but close enough. He got the boot. That is not true. That I want to end that rumor. Booney did not get the boot. Booney left on his own accord, and he's doing his own brand new show. And if you're all good, I'll tell you the name of the show and everything at the end of this particular episode. But yeah, this is the time where you can't get too crazy about about some of the spring training results. Although I will admit the fact that 2 games in and the A's have been outscored 18-2 isn't great. The first game, Murakami who's I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong. I'm sorry, I have 15 things on my screen right here. Jack Perkins did not look good. Zhen Aozhang, I'm not sure if I butchered that name, forgive me, but it doesn't matter because he didn't pitch well either. Wei Yin Lin pitched, wasn't great, wasn't horrible. Nick Anderson, he did okay, but the culprit was Jack Perkins. Jack Perkins um, wasn't pretty good. Didn't get out of the first inning, and the White Sox just had their way. Just had their way with the A's. You saw Muncy got a double. That was cool. Harris got on a couple of times. There we go. But this is it was a bad, it was a day that you looked at and you go like, okay, fine, it didn't happen. I'll tell you who did have a good day though. Was Brian Servin, who was trying to get the third string catcher job. Now Brian Servin has a little bit of major league experience. He played for the Rockies a few years ago. He didn't play in the major leagues at all last year, but he went 3 for 3 with a pair of doubles, and so far seems to be the only A's hitter who has woken up and is doing anything at all. Here's where he's interesting. If you're like me, and I know I am, I love to play the immaculate grid that they have and at baseballreference.com, the single greatest website in the history of the planet Earth. And you saw that one of the times they'll have these categories like pitchers with an ERA under 3. And if you have pitchers with the ERA under 3 that has to match with Colorado Rockies, then that's when you have to bring in Mr. Servin, because he came in and pitched a mop-up game for the Rockies a few years ago. So if you're ever in a situation playing immaculate grid, you need a Rockies pitcher with an ERA under 3, or you need someone who is played one game at catcher, one game at pitcher. Boom. Guarantee you are going to get a really, really low score for that. Just a heads up to all of you right now. But we got a couple other people who are saying, let's see, Bill Chilbrus 105 says, you think the A's will have the same May they had the last 2 years, that Melvin will be the next manager? No, I don't. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Melvin here. I think Kotsay is going to be the manager to stay. I think they're going to give him the car keys for this year. I mentioned the other day, the main thing that the A's have to do this year is avoid that May hiccup, because the May hiccup is really just it derailed them the last couple of years, and it just absolutely, they had an okay start to their final year in Oakland, and then they had the disastrous May and the disastrous June. And then last year they got okay, but alas, they just it just didn't work out, and they had that horrible May. And if they had even a mediocre May, and this is the frustrating thing, if they had even a mediocre May, then the A's would have had a real shot at a 500 season last year. I don't think they would have been a playoff team. I don't think it would have been a playoff team because they weren't better than Houston. They weren't better than Detroit. They weren't better than Boston. But a 500 year, their first year in Sacramento, went a long way. Would go a very long way. And I think they got a real shot at it this year. Now, do I think if they have a terrible May, is that going to cost Kotsay his job? I really don't think so. I really don't. I think the A's this year, I think they're trying to have a strong sense of, for the lack of a better word, a strong sense of stability. They've signed many of their players long term. This is the first year in a few years where they know where they are. In 2023, there was chaos in Oakland. Are they going to stay in Oakland? Are they going to move? What's going to happen? No one knew what was going to happen. 2024 began with the knowledge that they were going to be crashing on the couch in Sacramento before going to Las Vegas. But even that was a mess. And I hosted the Locked On A's show for that year. And some of you were mad at me. There's some people saying that I hated the A's. There's one person coming out and say, I have hatred for the A's. I didn't host the show for a full year because I hate the team. I don't pretend that I'm the biggest John Fisher fan in the world. I'm also not going to pretend that I'm the biggest fan of the local politics. The whole thing was messed up, and there was a lot of blame to go around for how that was messed up. And it obviously cast a pall over the entire 2022 season. And then last year was just weird. Their first year playing at Sutter Health Park. I went to a game there. I had a fun enough time, but it was weird. So this year, there isn't that sense of chaos. Whether or not you like them in Sacramento or not, technically West Sacramento, whether or not the construction is going on, and it appears that the construction it's at least moving. It's at least moving. They're proving me wrong in that. I didn't think they were going to do anything. But I think that the fact that they know where they're going to be this whole season, and probably the next 3 or 4 seasons, they're going to want a little bit of stability. And that's one of the reasons why I think Kotze, even if they do have a crummy May, is safe. Now, if they have a season like the White Sox did a couple of years ago or Colorado had last year, then all bets are off. That stability, I think, goes a long way. Kosher Dave is asking me, you think the Soderstrom and Butler extension were the correct moves for the A's? I think it was a move they had to make. First of all, they had to start spending money to keep some of those players there to get the revenue sharing, so to show they weren't tanking. That was one of the reasons why they signed, Rooker, and they signed Soderstrom, they signed Butler, they signed Severino. I think it is, if for no other reason, if they're going to be in Sacramento for the next couple of years, if you're a fan in Sacramento, and I fervently believe they should put Sacramento on their name of the team. They shouldn't just be the Athletics. They should be the Sacramento A's. That's where they're playing. And the minute they step on the field in Sacramento this year, they will have played in Sacramento longer than the Seattle Pilots played in Seattle. So it's like the shortest tenure in a city. But if you're trying to market the team, if you're trying to get anyone in Sacramento to come up and care about the team, and you're trying to get anyone in Las Vegas to be excited about the team, then I think having a sense of identity and not having the revolving door of players that certainly you had even during some of their terrific years, even during the Moneyball years, even during the Josh Donaldson, Sean Doolittle years, even during the Matt Olson years, there was always a revolving door of players, even when they were putting together multiple 90-win seasons. I think it would behoove them to be able to say, hey, here are some players you can attach some emotion behind Soderstrom, behind Butler, behind Rooker, behind Kurtz. You can do that because they're going to be sticking around for a little bit. They're going to be at least sticking around for the tenure that they're in Sacramento. If they have a 110-loss season, and I really hope they don't, because that'll be disastrous. But if they put it, then who knows? They may trade everyone away. They may trade everything that isn't nailed down. And then that would just, I think, be a disaster for the A's for this season. But I don't think that's going to happen. I do think they have a really good lineup, and their pitching staff isn't terrible. Their bullpen, we're rolling the dice. We're not sure what's happening at third base. But I do think that signing to those contract extensions was the right thing for that reason. Things aren't existing in a vacuum. They have to try to win and to get people in Las Vegas excited for this team. The goal, the goal at the end of the Yellow Brick Road, whether they change the name of the franchise or not, I support that, but a lot of you disagreed with me, and fine. If they're going to be the Las Vegas A's, fine, have them be the Las Vegas A's. But at the end of the rainbow is a beautiful stadium, something that they've been searching for since they left Shibe Park in Philadelphia, is at the end of this road. But they want to make sure that this is not a situation like what happened with the Miami Marlins, where you put the team in there and then it flopped. The stadium flopped, and the team flopped. They need to put a good team in there, and they need to get one that gets the fans of Las Vegas excited. We come back. I am going to talk about Bob Melvin, who is now a special assistant to the team. And we'll take a look at the fact that, as I said, and I hinted at, he was this close to having a Hall of Fame career. All right, let's hear from our good friends over at Indeed. Now, workplace chaos, deadlines are stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on, you need the right hire, and this is the job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. With Indeed sponsored jobs, spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Da 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 da. I hope you all appreciated that perfect ad read that I just did. Bob Melvin. Bob Melvin has had a really, really, really solid managerial career. More so than I think people realize. You know that Bob Melvin has the 20th most wins for a manager in the history of Major League Baseball. That's true. That's true. He's ahead of people like Tom Lasorda. He's ahead of people like Earl Weaver. Earl Weaver is arguably the greatest manager of all time. I'm not saying he's a better manager than them, but I'm saying for a manager who has, bounced around a little bit and may not be listed as an all-time great manager in many people's eyes, he's number 20 on the list. And, there's some managers who are a little bit ahead of him who are not in the Hall of Fame. Gene Mauch is not. Lou Piniella is not. I think Lou Piniella should be in. But he's just a little bit behind Showalter. He has a better winning percentage over his career than Jim Leland. But, yeah, he has more career wins than Dick Williams, more career wins than Tom Lasorda, which blew my mind because Lasorda was the manager of the Dodgers for, ever. Earl Weaver, Al Lopez, Miller Huggins. Miller Huggins was, sidelined by the fact that he died. It's the worst thing you do for your career. More than Whitey Herzog? Yeah, that's Bob Melvin. And keep in mind, he's done all of this great managing in the 22 years that he was a manager from 2003 and down up to 2025. He did not have a massive budget team. You could call San Francisco certainly a high budget team, but certainly not one of the big, huge honking ones. He led the Seattle Mariners to a 93-win season. He led the Arizona Diamondbacks to a 90-win season. He led the A's to 4 90-win seasons. He won 94 games in 2012, which was, I think, the most fun A's season maybe in my lifetime when they won the division the final day against Texas. The 2013 team, that if they got past the Tigers, they may have won the World Series that year. And 2014 looked like the year everything was going to click, and then the final third of the season was a disaster. Then John Lester forgot how to hold people on. Then they tore the team apart, but by 2018, they're back in the playoffs with a 97-win team, 97 wins in 2018, division title in 2020, 86 wins in 2021. Goes to the San Diego Padres, takes the San Diego Padres to the National League Championship Series. Couldn't pull it off with the Giants, and I'm a big Bob Melvin fan. He did not do a good job with the Giants. But if he had won one World Series along the way, think about the team he had in Arizona. The team in Arizona won 90 games. They had a negative run differential, and they won 90 games, got to the NLCS. Think about the teams that he managed in Oakland, where they tore the team apart. They absolutely, when the 2012 season began, people were saying it wasn't fair that he had such a lousy team, and they won 94 games. If he had just one World Series title along the way, we'd be talking about him in the Hall of Fame. Do I think he's going to take over? No, I think he's probably managed his last game, but he's certainly worth a salute as an all-time great A's manager, and who's someone who is, you know what, might be deceptive, but became an all-time manager. Maybe frustrated us a little bit here and there, but had a great career. So welcome back to the fold, Bo Mel. I hate that nickname. And thanks for tuning into Locked On A's. We're going to be talking about some of the other places the A's almost moved to and some other great spring training stuff. Make sure you subscribe and follow to Locked On A's. You get all the latest episode and join the Everydayer Club, and go to lockedona's.supercast.com, and you'll get ad-free shows and access to the members-only Discord. So we got a lot of people commenting in there, and just head over to lockedona's.supercast.com. For those of you on video, go to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network on YouTube. And also check out me on Locked On MLB, where I talk about the entire league. And by the way, fans of Booney, and I happen to be a fan of Booney's, go check out The House Always Wins on YouTube. And you can see your buddy Booney continue to talk about it and doing his thing. He's a good guy, and he did a really terrific job as the host here of Locked On MLB. And my A's bias 7517 says, Melvin is a young squad manager, couldn't handle the top tier spotlight. That could be right. That could be wrong. I don't know necessarily what to say. I am not Bob Melvin. It would have, if he had just won one of those years, if they didn't run into Justin Verlander or to anyone else on those Tiger squads, and they managed to win that one elusive title, that could have been it. And then we'd be talking about Bob Melvin, Hall of Fame manager, right alongside Dick Williams and Tony La Russa, and hell, while we're at it, Connie Mack. Talking about the first two spring training losses, Luis Severino's terrific tune-up, some of the thoughts of signing these players long-term, and Bob Melvin is back on the payroll. This has been Locked On A's. I am your host, your temporary host, at least for the next couple of weeks. My name is Paul Francis Sullivan, but please, by all means, just call me Sully.